Welcome traders to the Candlestick entry patterns video for the basics section of this course. Although we may be going over a few different candlestick entry patterns throughout this course, for the transition phase, these are the only two candlestick patterns that you need to know in order to utilize the pullback strategy. So what we've looked at so far in this course is conditions, right? We looked at the trend of the market, that's a condition. We looked at structure levels, condition. We looked at a moving average, that's a condition. What do we need to create an actual strategy? Well, we need these conditions, and we also need entry reasons. Why do we actually place the trade? We have the market in all these conditions. Let's say we're in trend above the 50-day moving average, and we're pulling back to a structure level. Well, if that's the case, how do we enter the market? That's what we really need to be concerned with, and that's what we're going to discuss in this video, is two extremely accurate entry reasons that I've used in my own trading and that I use in order to utilize the pullback strategy. Those entry reasons consist of an engulfing candle, but we're going to add a few stipulations to this, not just an engulfing candle, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. So for an engulfing candle, what we're looking for, if we zoom in right here, this would be an example of an engulfing candle. We have a red candle in which the real body of that red candle is smaller than the real body of our next green candle. In order to have an engulfing candle for the purposes of the pullback strategy, we have to have a color change. Meaning, if we're looking for a bullish entry, the previous candle must be red, the color must change to green, and the body of the green candle must be bigger than the body of the red candle. That's what we define as an engulfing candle here for the pullback strategy. Now, the other stipulations we're going to add to that are as follows. So we know that we need a color change, meaning going from red to green, or green to red if we're looking at a bearish example of this, which we will do in just a second. But let's just stay bullish for now. Let's just continue looking at red to green. So we changed the color from red candle to a green candle. We engulfed with a bigger body than the previous red candle. We have a bigger green body than its predecessor, the red body here. So we'll go ahead and delete those drawings. What are the other stipulations that we're looking for? Well, we'll focus right here for now at entry number 2. Entry number 2 only occurs, the only way we can take an entry out if we're focusing on entry number 2 is if we have this green engulfing candle, this body bigger than the previous red body, we have that color change, and the green engulfing candle has a lower low than its previous candle, meaning this green engulfing candle is also a swing low. When that's the case, that is our actual entry reason for the pullback strategy. That's when we place the trade at the close of this green engulfing candle in which was a swing low. That is entry number 2, guys. I'm going to go over that one more time because this is something extremely important that you're going to have to use every single time you place a trade based around the pullback strategy. So let's delete the drawings and talk about that once more. We have to have this color change going from red to green, looking at this bullish engulfing. The body of the engulfing must be larger than the body of its predecessor, the red candle. Now that we have those two stipulations met, there is one more stipulation we're using for entry number 2. That next stipulation is that the green candle must be a swing low, meaning the wick of that green candle must come down below the wick of the previous candle, as you can see here. Now, this in itself is a pretty simple concept, but I highly suggest that you go back through market data and take a look at how many times this situation has worked when you get an engulfing candle plus that engulfing candle was a swing low. This is a highly accurate way to enter the market when you combine it with the right kind of conditions. So that's what we're looking at when it comes to entry number 2. I know I did this backwards, but now we're going to take a look at entry number 1. So for entry number 1, we have the same thing, right? We have a close above our previous red candle, meaning our body here, our green body is larger than our red body. Now, in this case, we don't have, like we do here in entry number 2, what if our green candle isn't the swing low? Well, if our green candle is not the swing low, the only way we can take this as a trade, the only way that we see this as an entry is if we have what's called a 1, 2, 3 point move. We have 1, a higher low, a lower low, and then this engulfing candle for our entry number 1 must create another higher low. So what this means essentially is that for entry number 1, the engulfing candle must directly follow a swing low. A swing low like this, a swing low being a low that's predecessor was a higher low. that makes this a swing low. And as long as our engulfing candle follows a swing low and creates this 1, 2, 3 fractal move and then engulfs our previous red candle, then that counts as an entry as well. And that's the only 2 entry reasons we're going to be actually using. Anything other than that is not a valid entry. Only those 2. So as you can see, guys, creating these rules, these very, very specific stipulations for how we enter the market based on conditions and the entry reasons that I've just shown you here in this video, make your trading very, very rules-based, non-subjective. And with non-subjectivity comes an ease to your trading. You can now rest assured that you're doing the right thing in the market. If you test this, comes out to be profitable, and then now that you have all these rules written down, you have every single rule that you could ever come in contact with. You know exactly how you're placing the trade every single time. It makes your trading much more simple, and simplicity is key to profitability. So we'll go over entry number one more time, and then we'll take a look at the opposite of these, meaning we'll take a look at the bearish entries, which are the same exact thing. They're just turned around, flipped upside down. So let's take a look at entry number one once more. What we're looking for is a 3-point move. We need to see a higher low followed by a lower low. Once we have a higher low followed by a lower low, the same other rules apply. We need our green candle to be bigger, and we need it to be a color change from the swing low candle. As long as we get those 2 things and the low of our green candle is higher than our previous candle, then that is a valid entry number 1. And for entry number 2, to create a valid entry number 2, we need the green engulfing candle to be the swing low for a bullish entry. Now, let's flip these upside down and go ahead and take a look at bearish entries using this same entry pattern. All right, so now let's take a look at the bearish entry number 1 and 2, and we'll actually start off the correct way with entry number 1 this time. So what we have here is a market moving down, right? We have this impulsive move down, this pullback, and see if you can spot the entry number 1 here. Remember, entry number 1 is an engulfing candle directly following a swing high. So we have this lower high followed by our swing high, and then our engulfing candle directly afterwards in the bearish direction. The engulfing candle is a color change, meaning goes from green to red, and it also engulfs our previous candle, being bigger than the previous candle, plus creates our 1, 2, 3 entry reason number 1 rules that we needed to see in order to classify this as a valid entry on the close of this red engulfing candle. So that's entry number 1. We'll quickly go over entry number 2 as well. Remember, entry number 2, market in a downtrend, we have that pullback up, and now what we're looking at is to see if we get a swing high that is also a red engulfing candle for a bearish entry. And that's exactly what we get here. We have a color change going from red, or green, excuse me, to red. We have a swing high from our engulfing candle, and that's exactly what we need in order to place that trade, in order to make that a valid entry number 2. So that's a look at the bearish entry number 1 and 2. Now we'll go down to actual price action. We'll look at an actual chart. We'll point out a few of these on a chart to get you better accustomed to seeing them, and then we're going to move on to the really exciting part, which is the transition phase of the course. At this point, you know about conditions when it comes to trend, structure, moving average. So you also know at this point entry number 1 and entry number 2. So coming up, we're going to put it all together in the transition phase in order to actually create the pullback strategy. So let's go ahead and go down to price action, and I'll see you guys there. Okay guys, so here we are on the euro dollar chart, and what we're going to do is take a look at this chart. We're going to look and point out a couple of entries. Well, I'm going to ask you guys if they're entries. What I would ask is this an entry? This candle here, would it be an actual pullback entry? The answer to that question is no, because right here is our swing high. What we would need is an engulfing candle directly following that swing high. As you can see, looking here, we have a swing high that does not get broken by this next candle, meaning that this is our swing high. We needed this candle to be the engulfing candle for it to be an accurate entry. If you look closely here, this would not be an entry either, reason being because this candle closed above its previous candle. Now that is a little bit difficult to see, but it is the case. This candle is not engulfing the previous candle. Now, where is an accurate entry that you can see on this chart? Would this engulfing candle be an accurate entry? No, because this is not a swing low. What we have is our swing low right here. The swing low is lower. So that candle would not be an accurate entry based on this concept. The place we're looking at for an accurate entry is right here before our huge move down. The reason this is an accurate entry is because our red engulfing candle is in fact the swing high of this move. With that being the case, that gives us an accurate entry for entry reason number 2. So there's a couple of examples of entries that wouldn't be valid, plus this is an example of an entry that would be valid. Let's go ahead and move on now. We'll look through the charts and try to find a couple of other examples of this. Right here are a couple of other examples that would be good entries based on the concepts we discussed in this video. Here we have 1, 2, 3 swing low move followed by an engulfing green candle. Is that an accurate entry? Is that a valid entry number 1? The answer to that, of course, is yes. And here we have a valid entry number 2 directly afterwards right here. Why do we have that? Because this is a swing low lower than its previous swing low. Since the green candle here creates that swing low and engulfs our previous red candle, then we have a valid entry. And we'll continue this process a couple of times here, guys. Go ahead and look a little bit further. We can look here and see a nice in-trend entry. Go ahead and see if you can spot it. It's going to be an entry number 1. Our nice in-trend entry number 2 is this candle right here, our red candle. The reason that that is a valid entry is because we have a 1, 2 being lower high, higher high, followed by our lower high engulfing red candle, giving us that accurate entry number 1. So let's continue and look at just a couple of other examples that really bring this point home that we're talking about. Here I can already see a good counter trend valid entry number 2. See if you can spot that on the screen in front of you. If you said this, you would not necessarily be wrong with this pattern. We can discuss why I would not be taking that as a trade later on in the course, but the entry reason that I was looking at personally was right here. We have a red engulfing candle that creates a swing high. Since we have that red engulfing candle, red body bigger than green body, and this swing high created by this red engulfing candle, that would be an accurate entry reason and a valid entry reason for our pullback strategy. And of course, you can use this entry reason for any other strategy as well. And let's look at one more example before we move on, and we'll actually look at an example based around the pullback strategy. Let's go ahead and put the 50 EMA on the screen. So here we have the 50 EMA. Before we look at an accurate or a valid entry reason, can you tell me why this entry reason would not be valid? We do have an engulfing candle here. We definitely have a bigger red body than its predecessor. So why is that not an accurate entry? Well, because here's our swing high. The thing we would have to have in order for this to be accurate entry number 1 would be this candle be an engulfing red candle and close down here. The other way we can enter the market, the only other way, would be if this swing high was higher than the previous swing high we just pointed out. And those are the only two ways we can enter the market. So let's find one more successful entry reason based on the pullback strategy. And here we have a nice entry based on that pullback strategy. Let's go ahead and look at what the market did after this entry. As you can see, had a huge run up. But now let's take a look at the entry. Let's go ahead and zoom in, and I'll see if you guys can spot it. All right, it is on the screen now, the entry that I'm talking about. Can you spot that entry? And this would actually be a valid entry for the pullback strategy. If you pointed out this candle here as being the entry, you would be correct. And let's explain why that's the case. Well, we have a market that pushes above our 50 EMA. You'll notice that that's going to be one of the rules for our pullback strategy in the transition phase of the course. We pull down. This is our swing low, correct? Once we pull down and have this red candle being our swing low, we know exactly what we're looking for. After we get a swing low, we want to see a green engulfing candle directly afterwards to give us that bullish entry reason number 1. So pointing this out and going a little further into detail, we have our 1, 2, 3 move, and the third candle in our 1, 2, 3 move is an engulfing green candle to the previous red candle, which turned out to be a fantastic trade here on the euro dollar. Just to give you a brief overview of the pullback strategy, we would have placed a trade going long on the close of this candle. We would have had our stop loss below this previous swing low, and as you can see, the market ripped up, giving us great profit potential out of this trade. So that is the entry reasons that we're going to be using throughout the transition phase of the course. In the next section, in the transition phase of the course, we're going to be taking a look at how to combine all the things we've learned so far, moving average, structure, and trend, combining all of these conditions with the 2 entry reasons we learned in this video to actually create a strategy. Then we're still not done. After we create that strategy, we're going to create an entire trading plan around it. So if you're ready to see all of that, if you're ready to learn how to actually create your own trading plan, then go ahead over to the transition phase and I will see you there.